Roberts. I'm a senior, and I do poetry. Robert's got a quick hand. He'll look around the room, he won't tell you his plan. He found a six-shooter gun in his dad's closet in a box of fun things, and I don't even know what. But he's coming for you, yeah, he's coming for you. Monsters kill people. That's the only explanation, right? That for someone to be so corrupted as to exterminate one of their own species, they must be monsters. In the poems At the Beginning by Charles Whitman, There's a Man in the Woods by Jacob Stradline, with transitions from Pumped Up Kicks by Foster the People, we see that anyone is capable of such depravity. Monsters are people. The Wolf Among Us, a program. I'm not a man you're going to want to understand, even after you've understood me. See, I'm supposed to be a loving husband because I take out the garbage and kiss my wife. But me, I kissed, then killed my wife. See, in the Marines, I learned to sharpshoot. It's what I'm good at. So I enlisted. And you know what I saw? Fire. Blood. I saw the soul of Guantanamo, and I became a shadow of what I used to be. After that, doctors peered into my charts, and apparently something had gone terribly wrong inside of me. But you won't know that until I've shot this world open with steady aim. But of course, it's not my fault. See, they'll say it's like a gun misfired in my head to make it so that I can't tell right from wrong. Murder is a word invented by the scared, to scare others on cold nights and in dark alleyways. But you're more dangerous when you're together. So insistent on living. What would your faces look like from above if I couldn't tell brown eyes from gray or smooth cheeks from forgotten shaves? I packed a sawed-off shotgun, a .35 caliber rifle, and lunch. When I look over the edge of the tower, I can't see, but I know where to aim. Ah! I miss many times. But many times you can be sure I've hit. Look at them down there. They probably think there's an army of people up here. They're coming. It's not possible. I could have been. You know, but no, it doesn't matter. I should know what it's like to die already, right? Spasms up through my spine. Before I fade away beneath that sun-peeled sky. And for what? For you all to think it was about glory. For you to look at my picture in the newspaper with your fists balled up. My disease killed many, but it's not what killed me. So when you spit on my grave, don't think I'm not sorry that it didn't get me first. All the other kids with the pumped up kicks, better run, outrun my gun. All the other kids with the pumped up kicks, better run, faster than my bullet. There's a man in the woods. What a spectacle before the story started, this school was still respectable. My students used to skip down the hill to the honeysuckle, pluck a couple, and collect their nectar till they picked their fill. Except one obnoxious kid, Sid, who just watched them eat the flowers while he seethed and scowled because he couldn't bear to share his sweet treats throughout our recess hours. I remember Sid saying, "There's a man in the woods." That's where the rumors began. Poor kids. Sid got them immersed in his spiel about a serial killer whose gun barrel glint hid said peril, a visit to the nurse, or worse, a hearse waiting beyond the dale. And I pleaded for the kids to just think and learn to be mature. But after a few more rumors doomed my attempts to prove the school was secure, their fear was undeterred. And when the buses drove them all home, the parents finally heard. I received a wall of emails and calls full of shrieks, wails and all from terrified families who'd heard word of the murderer and didn't like my lack of action at all. What was I supposed to do? Comb the whole forest? Yeah, right, would you? That means I didn't care? That's not fair. The stories that worried you weren't true. Of course, I would regret had there been a real threat and I ignored it. Some poor kid got kidnapped while the kids were napping. But you couldn't admit that your good little kid would formulate a fib, so you ignored what I said. An overactive imagination, maybe, but my child could never lie. How dare I accuse a child of being dishonest? Just monstrous. The parents were displeased, and when the PTA took action, they dismissed me from my classroom, like they knew what was best for their kids. Do you know how difficult it is to get a job when some bitter mom slanders your rep with child neglect from the outset? Now who's in control of your classes? Single file lines, little file swine, a killer by the pint? Really? Are you blind? Sid, a child, decides to fill our minds with lies, and the next thing you see is people treating me like I've committed crime. I was in my prime! Those kids were lucky to have me. Do you see what you did? But I can play along. I can be good. Do you hear that, Sid? There's a man in the woods.